Joining me now to talk more about the legacy Mayor Mel Lastman leaves behind, I've got Vaughan Mayor Mauricio Bevilacqua joining us now live here on CP24. Good morning, Mayor. Tell me, how are you remembering Mel Lastman this morning?
Very fond memories. I was involved in his campaigns, and getting up at 5 o'clock to meet him at 6 o'clock to greet commuters. Used to wave, speak to people in a very warm way, wish them a great day and a good morning, but not just in a sort of good morning. It was just felt. And he looked straight into people's eyes. He made people feel good. He loved people, and really the people of North York back in the day loved him as well. I was president of the York University Student Council back in the 80s, and I got to know him quite well through that. And then I worked in his campaign. I coordinated the western section of North York back in the day, and I really got to know him in a very personal way. And he wasn't in public life for all the right reasons. He provided hope for people. And back in the day, North York was a city on the move, and a large part of it was because of the personality and also the commitment that Mel Lastman had towards the citizens. I was also involved in the Humber Summit, building of the Humber Summit Library. We fought very hard to get this library, and Mel was very supportive of that. And it was a big community victory back in the day. I used to be president of the Forgotten Corners Residents Association. We felt that the city was not taking care of us. But I'll tell you, when we got to know Mel and started talking to him about the challenges we felt, he was there, he was very supportive, and he made a difference in that community. A library back in the day was a big deal for that community, Italian Garden Plaza, we used to call it. And Mel was present. And, looking back at my own personal career, always seeking guidance from people that I thought were politically very astute. I remember at my wedding when Mel pulled me aside and he said, you ought to really consider seeking public office. And 2 years later, I was sitting in the House of Commons.
Mayor, did you talk with Mel Lastman through those years when he offered his advice at your wedding that you should seek public office? What happened in the years after that? Did you look to him for advice?
See, he was always available. He was he understood what public life was all about. He told me, look, I sense in you that you have the heart in the right place. And I used to watch him during, when you're with somebody at 6 in the morning and he's greeting people and he's talking to people, you get to know the real inner core of that person. I mean, you can't fake that. Those are things that, and look at how long he lasted in public life. And he lasted that long because every cell of his body was there to serve people. And that type of personal relationship also made me realize that there are great people in public life, and Mel Lastman was one of them. He made time for people. He was a person who could bring a smile on everybody's face, and attended many public functions with him, and people felt the warmth and the genuine spirit, the authentic personality, and that spirit of generosity that emanated from him. And people loved him for that reason. And I think that, people that want to become, politicians or seek elected office ought to look at Mel Lastman as an example of a person who was there to bring about positive change to people's lives. We talk a lot about equity and justice and fairness and race relations today, but he started the Race Relations Committee way before these issues were being talked about, because he understood that in a multicultural society, you need to be inclusive. You need to practice the politics of inclusion, not exclusion. And these are some of the things I remember about him. I thought that he was a great man, a wonderful man, and an individual who gave of himself in a very selfless way to the betterment of society. And that's what public office is about, and that is something that I will always treasure and remember.
It takes a special kind of person to last 30 years in politics as well. I think a lot of people in the city, whether they agree to this politics or not, had a soft spot for Mayor Mel Lastman. But he started here in North York in '73, a decade when we started to see influxes of immigrants coming not only to Toronto, but specifically to North York, including my family, including you, Mayor, and your family. What kinds of contributions did he have to North York specifically to put North York on the map?
Well, he had a very ambitious plan for the city. You look at the downtown core in North York, for example. But he also looked at every single part, whether you're talking about where I live, in the Islington and Finch area. He was present, and it was a good-sized city as well, and a lot of needs. But the presence is important, and I think, in public life, I always tell people, look, the most beautiful views are always from the mountaintop, but never forget that life is played in the valley. And he understood both things. He had a vision for the city, but he also knew that he had to be amongst people because he needed people to make things happen. And I think that that is a lesson for everyone that wants to seek public office, and also a lesson for people that at the end of the day, people that are involved in public office, what they really care about is to provide hope and make people happy.
One of the things Mayor Mel Lastman's most remembered about today is January 1999, calling in the Army to help dig Toronto out of a meter of snow. What do you think that said about his commitment to the residents? He said he couldn't live with the thought of someone calling him and saying he couldn't get to the doctors or couldn't take their mom to the hospital, for example. What does that say about Mel Lastman?
Well, look, there'll be people, and you probably recall through press clippings that, were critical of that move. And at the end of the day, Mel, did the right thing for what he thought was required. And his priority was making sure that people in North York were safe, that people were given the priority. And he always put people first. So he didn't really mind the criticism, but at the end of the day, he knew that he got the job done. And that's what Mel Lastman was all about. People can say what they want, but during that time, that's what he felt. He made that decision, and so be it.
And Mel Lastman, what you saw is what you got with him. Vaughan Mayor Mauricio Bevilacqua, thanks for your time this morning and for your memories and sharing that with us and our viewers. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Beatrice. Stay safe.
You as well.